What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going over POLYGON MATIC as it absolutely needs to make a crucial move relatively soon before we are likely going to see a bit of a stronger correction back towards the downside, okay? And so in today's video, of course, we're going to be talking about exactly how I am looking for that to happen and exactly how I am going about it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get straight into it. Now, paying attention to POLYGON MATIC, something that we talked about in the last video, of course, was that we needed to see this trend line broken. And that until we see this trend line broken, I would not be doing any buying. Now, when we made that video, it was actually retesting the trend line. I said, until we break it, I'm not going to buy anything because then we're still probably going to push back towards the downside because this is a rejective high, okay? And there's no point in doing a lot of accumulation while we are seeing a rejective high holding the price into, more of a bear market, right? Now that we have seen the rejection and we have seen that push back to the downside, one thing we can see is that we needed to track our Fibonacci's to the downside to gauge where support may or may not be established and really figure out when we may see a return back towards the trend line. Now, of course, what we're going to do in that situation is take the low in which we put in on January 24th and draw your Fibonacci all the way up to your February 7th highs, okay? Now, what that's going to do is that's going to give you this 618 to 786 zone right here. That's going to be between $1.55 and $1.43. Now, this is going to be the zone that somewhat dictates whether or not we're going to retrace back to the lows in which we put in at $1.30, or if we are going to see a stronger bounce with a very, very strong level and foundation below us that could very possibly bounce us back out above the trend line. Now, one thing we can see happen is that as the price did retrace back down, we did try to bounce off of it, but originally, or initially we came back, tried to bounce, failed, and then we came back and closed below the 0.786 at $1.43. Now, what that means is that minimum level of support, that door, has failed. And now what this means is that there is a very strong chance in terms of technical statistics on a range of a realm of possibilities, a range of probabilities. It is more likely than not at this point that we will see the push back down towards this range low because we did lose the 0.786 level, although we are seeing a strong bounce. And so this is us trying to break away from those odds. This is now more likely than not. It's not guaranteed, but statistical probabilities say that it is more likely than not again. So what does that mean for MATIC and what needs to happen as soon as possible? Well, what needs to happen as soon as possible, of course, if market conditions do allow, is that we get back above the trend line soon. Okay. Now, the reason that this is going to be so important is because if we are to go back down and lose this level and we don't put in, say, a W bottom, say we don't come in and double bottom at 130, I actually envision that MATIC may fall as low as back to this previous low around this little area of confluence, somewhere around, let's go ahead and get this put up, around $1.15. That is actually where I'm expecting the next breakdown target to be. And of course, from where we are at this point, that is pretty substantial. I mean, that's another 25%. Okay. And so for that reason, it is extremely important that we are capable of getting back above this trend line within the next probably 2 weeks, right? If at any given point we start to fail, if at any given point we do start to roll, whether it be off $1.63, which is the rejective high on the micro cents, whether it be off of, our 200 moving average, which is kind of working its way in this area, whether it be on our 50 moving average, which is working very, very in tandem with our price or with our trend line here. It doesn't matter. If at any given point we get rejected here and we start to get pushed back to the downside, I do expect that we will see a bottom side breakout of this trend line that looks like us putting in a lower low back down towards the $1.30 first. And again, the loss of that level likely does mean a push back towards $1.15, especially as we do see on a more macro sense, this bearish cross possibly forming between the 50 and the 200 moving average. Okay. I think a push to the downside at that point drags those two moving averages together. And that of course could be, that could lead to that larger capitulation event in which we have been speaking about. Okay. So it is extremely, extremely, extremely important that we are capable of putting in this higher high at this point and breaking the trend before it is a little bit too late because time is running out. Okay, we can see that at this given point we do have a strong case to be made to say that it is possible, right? If you look at something like the daily MACD, we can see here that we are getting convergence on a micro sense. As you can see, this blue line is working its way back up towards the orange line, and so if we are capable of making this continued move to the top side, we may see this entering back into a more short-term bull market and say that we could look to make that move. It is very possible. If we get back up to this trend line, very likely we will see this bullish cross happening, which may say that as we break the trend, we enter into a bit of a bullish phase. And as we can continue forward, we could likely set maybe a new high back up towards 200 bucks or $2 or something like that. That's possible. But it all comes down to we have to just see it happen. There is no speculating that that's going to happen. It's let's see it happen at this point, okay? Even if we look at something like our RSI, let's go ahead and make a comparison here. As you can see, off of this recent low, macro low, which we put in here to where we are now, we do have that lower low established. But if we look at that in conjunction with our RSI, you can see we have a bit of a higher low there, a lower low here. That's bullish divergence, which could be a sign that as we did enter towards the bottom side of this wedge or this triangle, you could see that the bears did start to get a bit exhausted. That is a good sign that shows that this support level is strong. But realistically, the support level is only going to be able to be maintained for small periods of time if we do keep retesting it and pushing back towards the downside, okay? So Matic is running out of time. We need to see this move happen relatively soon, and we need the market to allow it, of course. Now understand, Matic is a great crypto. It's fantastic, amazing. But realistically, it's not moving on its own. It is moving under the influence of Bitcoin. And so as Bitcoin is trying to establish support on its own macro Fibonacci 0.618 to 0.786 level and looking to continue to the top side, that is going to have a very, very large influence on what happens with Matic. And so that is the reason why you need to be paying attention not only to Matic's charts but to Bitcoin's charts as well. So overall, that's going to be about it for today's video. I don't mean to be kind of like the bearer of bad news while the market is looking green, but there is, pretty strong levels of risk at this point, especially if you're looking to be buying while we are in a moment of, a bit of consolidation, right? We are stuck within a formulation here that doesn't have a bullish nor bearish likelihood, okay? And so for that reason, buying at a point of neutrality does have tendencies to be a little bit risky, and I'm not personally doing so. I will be waiting for the breakout to the upside or a short opportunity to the downside on a break here. So with that being said, that's going to be about it for today's video. Of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. This was a bit of a shorter video, but I wanted to get straight to the point because these things happen fast, and of course I want you guys to be as up to date as possible. So with that being said, I will see you all very soon in the next one. Peace.